All right, well, today was certainly a day. It was the official Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and there's definitely some things that I feel like I want to talk about. So, first things first, let's just jump right into it. Let's go over the price. Pricing for this is going to be $449 for the standard edition. There's also a bundle that includes Mario Kart World, which would be around $500, give or take a little bit more. Likely a little bit more. Now, that is fine and dandy. I think Mario Kart World looks great, and we'll talk about the games a little bit further in a minute. I'm quickly going to go over some of the specs. So it is 4K if you were playing it in docked mode. 4K at 60 FPS is what the system will be capped at. And in handheld mode, it is full 1080 HDR with up to 120 frames per second. So pretty good. I think that's good. I think that's super fair. It's priced pretty much a little more than what the PS4 Pro was when it came out. I think spec-wise, it looks good. There was a little more in-depth information with the C button, which is essentially like the connect button, which that you can invite people to a game that you're playing or any game that you're playing and just have friends alongside with you with the new camera accessory that you can attach the USB-C port that is at the top of the Switch so they can see your face and it interacts with some games. Oh, that's fine and dandy. Now, one of the interesting things here is some pricing. So, Mario Kart World will be priced at $80. Now, that might seem like a shock to a lot of people, and it's pricey, don't get me wrong, it's definitely expensive. For one single game, $80 is very expensive, but it seems like the reasoning behind that is that the new technology for these cartridges that Nintendo is using is actually more expensive than what they used on the Switch. So unfortunately, I don't think it's necessarily a storage thing. As with these game cartridges, they're just in general, they cost more to manufacture and you have less storage on them. So it seems like whatever new cartridges that they're using are just more expensive and they're passing that cost along to the consumer. The only thing that I don't really understand is, now they did a $70 game with Tears of the Kingdom, and I guess the idea was because it was such a big game, whatever it may be, right? But when we got these price increases to, from PS5 and Xbox Series S and X for next-gen games to be $70, we had some context behind that in the sense that we knew God of War Ragnarok, Spider-Man, the Halos and all that jazz were very expensive. 200 to 300, sometimes even more to make. So they were seeing diminishing returns, and they're probably still seeing diminishing returns. They literally had to charge more because it was a necessity. Like, they could not sustain the $59.99 anymore because these games were becoming so massive. I'm not saying Nintendo hasn't increased development costs at all, but I don't think they're anywhere near $200 to $300 million. $80 for a game is a lot no matter how you look at it. And Nintendo is unique because they are Nintendo. They are mainly a video game entertainment company. They're not Sony or Microsoft where they have these gaming divisions. They're solely Nintendo, and their bread and butter is their hardware and their software. So the pricing is a little interesting. And I also find it interesting that apparently in some countries it'll be cheaper digitally, which is very odd because you are really risking your relationship with a lot of retailers because you're directly competing with them on your own platform, which would be the eShop. And then you're Nintendo. Like, you've always been more towards physical, and your physical share has been way more than your digital share. So I find that a bit odd. Now, that could really just be because that's the direct effect of how much more it costs to use these new cartridge types, which that could very well be the case. And they're just saying, hey, that extra $10 is what it is to manufacture on these newer carts. But I'm still going to get Mario Kart World physically. I mean, I'm definitely still going to buy it. I think for me personally, my strategy is going to largely stay the same with most of my third-party games I play are on my PS5 Pro. And then as a Nintendo fan, I really play Nintendo for whatever exclusives they have from third parties and then their first-party software as well. So like games like, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, Elden Ring, well, I think it's awesome that they're coming to Switch and that people who primarily play on Nintendo can finally play these games. I myself will not be picking them up because I already own them, which will save me money. Now, another thing to talk about with those, Nintendo has introduced game keycards, which really is not a huge shock. Essentially what that is it's a game that still has a cartridge, but it'll either A, have like, if the game's 100 gigabytes, it may have 5 gigabytes on that cartridge, whatever it may be. But no matter what, you'll insert that cartridge and you will have to download the game to play it. It'll still require a download. So what's odd to me about this is I definitely think publishers are going to cheap out on this. We already have one of my most anticipated announcements on this was the Bravely Default remaster. That apparently is and the box art will say if it's a game keycard game, and this one is. For some reason, it requires 11 gigabyte download, and Square Enix thought, which I'm assuming they're publishing it, maybe Nintendo is, but it requires a 11 gigabyte download to play, and it's Bravely Default. It came out on the 3DS on that cartridge, so I really don't understand that. Just a bit odd to me. And yes, there are some modern games on disc that you still have to download, but no matter what, there's still a playable build on that disc, so you'll still be able to access the game. So that to me is a little odd. But there's also Street Fighter 6, which will require a 50 gigabyte download, and Nintendo's internal storage out of the gate is going to be 256 gigabytes on the system, and you'll have to buy express micro SD cards. That will be the only micro SD cards that you can use with the Switch 2. So, with all that out of the way, let's get into some of the first-party software, which is honestly the most exciting stuff. Before we do that, though, I am so hyped on... Actually, two things before we get into that. First thing is GameCube titles coming to Nintendo Switch Online is freaking awesome. I am so excited for that. I saw Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Pokemon Colosseum on there, and those are probably some of the first ones that I'm going to go to. So really, really hyped on that. Second thing, there are Nintendo Switch 2 edition of games, similar to what PlayStation has done with PS4 games, essentially allowing you to upgrade. But these upgrades are not going to be free. So with a Nintendo Switch 2 edition game, right, if I were to buy Metroid Prime 4 or Pokemon Legends ZA, obviously those games are not out yet. So if I had a Switch 2, I would likely go for the Switch 2 edition. Or you can still buy the Switch 1 edition if you own a Switch 1, or you can still buy the Switch 1 edition and you can use it on your Nintendo Switch 2. There are games that are getting updates, such as Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and they're getting straight up, not re-releases, but they're getting, Nintendo Switch edition, Nintendo Switch 2 edition releases, which you can buy if you don't already own the games, which will include all the enhancements. So that is nice too. It's really nice to see Tears of the Kingdom looking so good and running so well. I think I'm going to buy some of those just because playing those in 4K at 60 FPS is going to be really awesome. So that's nice. I do like that option. I really am not a huge fan of how much room it takes on the box art down at the bottom. It's just really odd to me. I know it's a very nitpicky thing. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into some of the first party lineup. So we have a new Mario Kart World, we've already talked about, which looks incredible. I am so excited for that. Then we have a new 3D Donkey Kong Bonanza. This will be $70. So it seems like maybe $70 is the norm going forward, and then the 80 to 90 range could be a case-by-case basis. But it is very, very, very awesome. This game looks incredible. I honestly thought it was a sequel to Odyssey. Out of the gate, I was like, oh, this is a sequel to Odyssey for sure. This definitely looks like a follow-up or in the same vein, but it looks awesome. I think going back to that kind of retro design for Donkey Kong looks super cool. I think gameplay-wise, it looks great. I think it's going to be a super, super fun game. Very excited for that. I think that will be coming in July, so a little bit after. Nintendo Switch 2 releases on June 5th, and pre-orders start April 9th. So literally in next week, next Wednesday. Okay. Wow. Okay, geez. Okay. So, I think that looks great. Mario Kart World looks super fun. That's going to be a launch day title, and I'll definitely be getting that day one for sure. And then we had a new Kirby Air Riders, which was just so crazy to see. I love Kirby Air Rider on the GameCube. It was one of the more unique, I don't think you could say kart racers, but one of the more unique racing games in terms of its controls. I always had a blast playing that. I know it wasn't for everyone, but I think it was so fun. So I was very excited to see that. They also had a kind of demo-ish game to kind of similar to Astro's Playroom to just kind of guide you around the hardware of Nintendo Switch 2 and show you, just information on it, what it does. Oddly enough, that will be a paid title digitally. I think that was kind of weird. That definitely should have just been kind of thrown in there. I don't know why they would charge for that, but they did put, money and resources and labor to it, so they obviously want to see a return on investment from it, so it makes sense, but it is a little strange to see. And then we got the announcement of a third-party exclusive game from Software, which is I honestly, when I was seeing this, I was like, Bloodborne? It definitely looks like Bloodborne. Gives off very Bloodborne-esque kind of energy and vibes. Wow, I feel weird saying that. But, yes, it is not Bloodborne, obviously, as you can tell. It is an exclusive title coming to Switch 2 in 2026. And unfortunately for me, it is a PvP or PvE multiplayer game. The title is The Duskbloods. And yeah, I'm not super interested into it, unfortunately, because it's primarily online. If it was a single player game, I would definitely be all over it. But it looks fun, and I think Nintendo securing a From Software exclusive for their platform is super, super important. So, wow, okay, we went over a lot. I'll probably have more to talk about as time goes on, but that's just like my immediate thoughts kind of right after the Direct, and just, wow, yeah, very interesting. Okay, well, let me get this together. I will see you guys in the next video.